Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect. This is our spoiler-filled review of Top Gun Maverick. I'm David Lott. Joining me as always is Bobby Jackson and Michelle Hullard. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Hey.
Welcome. Top Gun Maverick has now been out for 2 weekends, so a little over a week. It has done pretty well for itself in the box office for sure. What do we got? A total gross domestically of 295 million here in the States. It only had, after the actuals came out today, turns out it only had a 28% drop off in its second weekend.
That's it?
Which is
that's insanely low.
Pretty incredible.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's pretty
I don't think anybody predicted that.
No.
That is amazing.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I mean, when the estimates on Sunday, I think, had it at like just over a 30% drop off, which was still amazing.
That's still
amazing. And then it got even better with the actuals.
Wow.
Like it's nuts. So yeah, this movie's doing pretty well for itself. How long has it been since the first Top Gun? 35 years or something like that?
Somewhere around there. I want to say it was like 32 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Well, I think the initial idea was that it was 30 years because it was supposed to have come out or 30. I forget now. Because it came out in what, 85?
I thought it was like 86. I don't know. It's close enough.
We're old.
Mid
That's
to late
where
80s.
that's where we're at this point.
Yeah,
we're old.
It's been a while. Yeah, we're gonna review the film with spoilers. I know I've already mentioned that, but I'm gonna say it again before we really get into this. So if I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick yet, something tells me that's probably not the case. Basically, everyone has seen this movie by now, so it seems. But if for some reason you haven't, I would not watch this review. Go see the movie first, and then come check this out. We are going to talk about spoilers for the film. I guess I'll get us started with this one. I think that's been the vote, anyways, that I'm going to get us started with this. Top Gun Maverick. Well, this is an interesting one for a couple reasons. You know, I'm not going to talk about it a ton. I mean, if you've been watching the show for a while, you may have remembered like a couple years ago. We hinted, I think we might have hinted about it on air. I think we did. We had screened a film that we couldn't talk about because we had signed NDAs to that effect. And we didn't even know going into the screening what the movie was going to be until we were sitting in the movie theater. And this was here in Orlando. I mean, this was
February of 2020.
Yeah, this was right before the pandemic hit.
Right before the world went to hell.
And at that time, Top Gun Maverick was due to come out that coming like early summer or late spring. It was pretty soon after that.
Yeah,
it wasn't far off. I want to say it was May of 2020.
I think it was supposed to be Memorial Day weekend.
Could have been
again for 2020.
But yeah, we went into a screening through GoFobo, I think is how I got to it. And we were sitting in the movie theater and everyone's speculating, what's this going to be? And sure enough, it was Top Gun Maverick. That was 2 years ago. That we saw a screening of this film.
I still remember when Tom Cruise came out at Comic-Con and he announced it and he showed the first trailer for it.
Right.
So, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been some time.
And that version of the film we saw, I mean, it was slightly unfinished. There was definitely effects toward the end of the film. Basically, the entire final like scene of this movie, most of the effects that we see there were unfinished. Like the surface to air missiles, especially. Like I remember a lot of those were
the CGI.
They were
missing.
very rough looking.
Yeah.
In the cut we saw, but. You know, I was always looking forward to, even after we saw it, I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing the finished product to see if they make any changes. And then, of course, the pandemic came and the movie just got pushed and pushed and pushed and it got farther and farther away. And then finally, it's like, okay, this movie's about to come out and people are just raving about this movie. Like critics are like, it's from CinemaCon, where I think it got a full screening. And even just from press screenings, everyone's like, man, this is incredibly good. And it had Michelle and I looking at each other going, we enjoyed the movie we saw, but it wasn't that good.
Like it was like people were talking about like it was the second coming of Christ.
Right.
Like
and
it's been a thing.
And I'm like, I mean, it was, again, I enjoyed the movie we saw, and I was looking forward to seeing it again and seeing if they made any changes or not. But I was like, man, they must have made some major changes. Cause like, again, the way people talk about this is, I mean, they had to like, I've heard that we've heard the director, Joe Krasinski, talk about the fact that they had shot a lot of footage.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe they really could have just played around with the ending. Maybe they shot multiple endings. I don't know. Like, what did they do? And we finally saw it. And first, I'm going to say all the hype is absolutely real. The movie, I think, is fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, and did I thoroughly enjoy it on that level of, man, it is like a movie that changed me, and I, you know, like it's going to be my number one film of the year, and it's like it spoke to me in certain ways that maybe certain like indie films do. No, but it is a great summer blockbuster film. It's just in every way, shape, or form, it just works. Like it really does. And I don't even say I'm a Top Gun fan. I liked the original film, and I think that's worth mentioning too, because I've noticed, and you know, I'm getting older. I remember seeing that movie in a movie theater, and I don't know if it's just a younger generation that's now watching that original Top Gun for the first time, but I've definitely seen more and more like critiques of the original Top Gun on like film Twitter, where it's starting to get like more and more hate, like, oh, it actually wasn't very good at all, it kind of sucked, but this movie's really good, but that movie wasn't very good at all. And I'm like, for what that movie was, I enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun. You know, especially back when it came out. It was, you know, being a part of that hype back when it came out was enjoyable. I thought it worked. So, you know, it wasn't like I was going into this as like a fanboy. But you know, this movie is great. And did I enjoy it more than the screening I saw? Absolutely. Did they make changes? No, not really. It's basically the same film, but it's also hard to say. Like, again, it's been over 2 years since I saw that screening, and there were a couple scenes as I watched it that I was like, I can't remember if this was in it or not. And maybe it wasn't, but it's hard to say. Like, I think the enjoyment I had for this movie this time around over the screening I saw, I think speaks to the quality of a fully finished product. I don't remember if the score was really the complete original score. I don't think it was. A lot of the stuff that's the score, like the theme from the original film, was in there.
Yeah, that was
like,
in there.
Basically, the whole opening scene where it's like the original theme going right into the
Faltermeyer's theme that he wrote.
Yeah, going right into the what's his name's
Danger Zone.
Danger Zone. Sorry, Danger Zone. Yeah,
those two.
That was all there, but I don't think most of the original score is in place, if at all.
There was like there was no back sound, I think, really happening. We were basically getting straight up like mic, maybe a little bit of background noise, but not like theme music or other, like that wasn't happening.
Yeah, and like I already said, you know, the effects weren't complete.
Some of the CGI,
yeah, especially toward the end of the film. Early stuff was done, but not the end of the film.
Yeah,
but there's something about like seeing it in its finished format with with the audience we saw it with, that I don't know, like even just emotionally it worked. I've heard people talk about how they teared up in this movie, and I remember hearing that too before I watched the show and going, what? Like, what would you tear up about in this? And I have to admit, there were times watching this where I don't even know why I was like feeling like I wanted to tear up watching this movie. And it was that good. It really was. Like, it makes me happy just as a Top Gun fan. It makes me especially happy for some reason as a Joe Krasinski fan. I've been a big fan of his direction. I am a Tron Legacy fan. I am an Oblivion fan. And I think he's a really talented director. And I think this movie is perfect evidence of that. There's certain shots in this that even as they pop up, I had like a smile across my face because they just are so Joe Krasinski, and they look so good. And I don't know, the movie's so good. it is definitely worth a watch in a movie theater if you haven't seen it and you're still watching this review for some reason. I saw it in a Dolby Cinema screening. I have not yet seen it in IMAX, and I would really like to, knowing that it was shot for IMAX. So if I can make that happen before it leaves IMAX theaters, I plan to, but I've only seen it the one time. But yeah, I can easily say I loved it. I thought it was really good. Who wants to go next?
I guess I'll go. Just reverse the order. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'll be able to say a lot of things that you didn't already say, because I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. I did have a chance to see it twice, but I saw it in Dolby both times, and I do want to kind of see it again, maybe if not in the IMAX, then in the 4DX, because I heard that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've heard some interesting things about that.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I definitely think I might end up seeing it one more time. But yeah, the movie, to me, I feel like it's one of those things where it's really just a throwback movie of an old action movie. Like at this point, they call those movies dad movies, but I really feel like it just embodies that old spirit of what those movies were, and we just don't get them like that anymore. And so that plays into this factor of it's no coincidence that I think they said the age group of 40 and up really went out and showed out for this movie. And I think it's like, right, exactly. And it's right in their wheelhouse, that pocket of what the type of movies that that demographic likes. And so it's to me, one, encouraging that they've come back to the movies if they haven't been, but two, that they're embracing it in this way. And I think that aside from the action that's in it, there's also a good story, a continuation from the first movie. And it's sort of like you said, David, it's not like this movie is one where it's going to be blowing out the doors in terms of acting and everything that is going to show up on top 10 lists out of, like, in terms of the artistry of it, so to speak. But it's just one thrill ride and entertaining movie. I mean, it gets no more into the idea of a box office summer movie release than this type of movie. It really fits that aspect of going to the movie theaters to see a big blockbuster action movie. And that's what this really does well, because there's obviously, if you look at the story and look at what we're getting, they're sort of just mirroring a lot of the first one. So it's not like it's altogether this super original story per se, right. But it just does, it knows what it is, and it's doing what it does extremely well. And I think that's why so many people are responding to it and loving it the way that they are, because you just don't see that much anymore. And a lot of times it's like we're used to spectacle, but in a sense, from whether it's a Star Wars movie or a comic book movie of some sort, but we don't get the spectacle outside of that very often in a way that is befitting the movie going experience. And so I think that plays into it this coming week when we have Jurassic World. That will play into it as well. Later on in the year when we have Avatar, that will do it. So there's definitely these movies that I feel like now I hope that conversation starts to switch to where we're not just saying that only comic book movies and Star Wars movies are the ones that are making money at the theater, and that we can see that there's room for a movie to be not that genre, but any other genre, as long as it's a good movie and people are responding to it. And so I think that IP, of course, plays into it as well. It's something that people are familiar with. But at the end of the day, it still had to be good. And that's what it was. It was really good. And so, I like you said, David, if you haven't seen it and you're still watching this for some reason, then you absolutely owe it to yourself to go to it, as long as you feel like you can go to the movie theater at this point and really enjoy that experience, because that's what it really is to me. It's experience, getting to be there with other people, feeling the excitement of the crowd, and also the level of cinematography that went into it with filming these shots for the planes and the dogfights and everything else. It's just a work that it lends itself to being able to be in the theater and hearing the engines, and especially if you're in a Dolby cinema, to be able to watch it that way and really enjoy it.
Yeah, and speak real quick to the excitement of the crowd that you just mentioned. Like, I was out of town the weekend it came out to go out to California, like we talked
Mhm.
about in another episode. And so I didn't see it. Michelle with me also didn't see it until a Tuesday night showing. It had been out a few days. And I mean, it was still a pretty packed, if not close to sold out
Yeah.
house. And even a Tuesday night showing, I mean, I haven't heard that much clapping in the middle of a movie,
Mm.
like in a movie in a while, like other
Applause,
than like an
cheering.
end game or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
like, yeah, applause and cheering, not just at the end for oh, that was a good movie, yay, let's clap. No, it was like excitement
Rooting.
throughout the film.
Yeah.
It was interesting and kind of fun. But Michelle, sorry, go on.
No, y'all. I didn't want to cut Bobby off.
Oh, I didn't have anything else
No,
to say.
he was
okay.
I was waiting for you.
No, so I mean, yeah, like David said, like we went and saw it 2 years ago as a screener, and not knowing what we were going to see that night, and we had an idea. We were pretty sure it was probably going to be that, but we didn't know. It literally could have been anything. So when you're with a crowd of people that don't really know what they're seeing, I feel like they can't quite convey what an audience that's actively specifically seeing a movie because they purchased a ticket for it. So yeah, it's a completely different crowd. And it was fun. I haven't been in a crowd that was excited for a film like that in a little while, and it was really enjoyable. No, I have no issues with this film. Like I mean, is this the actual like verbiage of the script, like, is it Shakespeare? No. But it's not gonna win any awards for that, but that's okay because this is a summer action blockbuster film. And yes, there are some moments of CGI in it, but a lot of the action is live action. It is real fighter jets out in the sky doing these maneuvers, and it's impressive, and it is adrenaline pulling, especially like certain shots where you actually see Tom Cruise in a cockpit pulling G's. Like it pulls you into it, and it really brings you into a story in a way that I don't think any kind of CGI ever could, no matter how good it is. It's enjoyable. It's a throwback film, and yeah, of course, anybody from 35 to about 60 right now is like, this movie's awesome, because that's what we grew up with. We grew up with not only Top Gun, but action films like this. And I'm glad they took their time to try to figure out the story so it wasn't just completely ridiculous. It works. It works on a lot of levels. It makes a lot of sense. Like, they explain why the character of Maverick is still just a captain. He has specifically gone this route. He wants to fly jets. Like, he explains it over and over and over. Like, and because of the explanation you get, you're like, yeah, no, it makes sense. Like, this is who he is. And it's plausible. Like, it makes it a plausible thing. Is it actually plausible in the military? Not really, but it makes it plausible for the film. And so it's okay. And like, I think Jennifer Connelly as the love interest, I think it works really, really, really well, honestly. I know some people were like, what? That's a whole new person. But no, it makes sense for Maverick to have gone back to Top Gun and taught for a little while, and probably come in and out of that port a few times for different things, and gone to that base to have like a connection of a person that he considers a good friend / love interest, and can kind of come in and out of her life. And she knows what the situation is. She's like, I live in, this is where I live, like, this is what we do. This is how it is. Like, I'm realistic to my relationship with him and my life and my choosings. And so it's a realistic relationship between the two of them. And so I totally buy it. It makes sense for the situation completely. Like, Miles Teller, I think, is a really good choice. Like, you threw a mustache on Miles Teller, I'm like, yeah, that's Anthony Edwards' kid. Like it works. It works a lot. You know, do I think Miles Teller's going to get any kind of award nominations out of this for acting? Heck no. But it was still enjoyable to watch him on screen as Goose's son. Like, it works well. The whole story from start to end works. And Tom Cruise is definitely the captain at the helm of this. And it's a fun ride. It's a good, you know, just sit back, relax, and just enjoy the adventure that is going to happen in this story, you know? And for anybody who is aged as we are, we all like, there are characters that we know that we revisit and we talk about in this film, and you know, it's kind of throwbacky, and it's okay. I don't mind it. It's not so throwbacky that it's overwhelming. I will say some of the flashbacks I think are a little. That's probably the only thing I would say I bumped on in the entirety of this film is sometimes they would have these flashback moments, especially like Maverick on Goose, and I was just kind of like, do we have to have these? And I don't think they're necessity for the story to keep progressing. I kind of feel like they just kind of threw them in, and I'm like, eh. But otherwise, it's a solid film, and it's really enjoyable. And I recommend it for anybody who's like, I like a good little action movie, you know. And yeah, it's good from start to end. I'm here for it.
I think we all agree.
Yeah.
I didn't have any tears though.
Oh, I definitely had. I
for
think
Iceman. Just for Iceman, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. But not even like when they showed that he died in the movie. It was just
the hug,
seeing them together, and it's just like you see, you know, anyone who knows Val Kilmer's current situation with his health, and seeing him in just the photos of how he was. And for anyone who grew up watching Val Kilmer, knowing that he was Batman at one point in time, and then just Iceman from this movie, from Top Gun, but also just having this sort of larger than life stature, and you know how good he was in Tombstone, just his whole body of work, and then just to see him in this movie reunited, playing this character again after 30 odd years. And
that made his career.
That reunion of those two characters and the friendship and bond that they had to have established over the years, that it was touching. And then it was just like so nice when they hugged, and then it was like that joke that was just perfect way to just end it when he asked him, and he spoke in his own voice, whether it was sort of help there modulated or something. It sounded well. It was done well. And he's like, but you know, once for all, who was the better pilot? And he's like, let's not ruin a good movie. It was just it was so great. So great.
It was so true to their characters.
Yeah.
With the two of them, you know, like it was just it was very true to their characters.
Yeah. And I also liked and appreciated just the touch of having Jennifer Connelly in there playing the character that was in the first movie that we never saw, but was the Admiral's daughter that he took up in the F-16, I guess. And so
the
it was
F-16,
just
they got him in trouble.
Yeah, they got him in trouble. So it's nice to have that little callback and just having her actually realize as a live flesh and blood person, and to have that established relationship from way back when, and then to know that even later on he still sort of came in and out of her life until this current moment where, you know, they made it into a situation where he's not the same person he was, and he sees in her something he should have never let get away, and decides, like, you know, this is it. I'm not going to leave you again. It was nice.
Their relationship really works because you can tell there's a history there, and she knows him. And there's moments where it's not that he needs like a calling out per se, like, oh, you need called out on this. It's mostly a, you know, I'm going to reinforce the fact that you know what you got to do. I'm here. I support you, but you know what you got to do. So go do it. And that's that's when you know somebody long enough and well enough to know their personality and how they act and how they're going to react, to go, yeah, it's crappy, and yeah, you have a right to feel this way, and yeah, that's a situation, but you know what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
Why are you hesitating? Here, I'll tell you. I support you. Go do what you got to do. And like that's the support of a relationship that works.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was,
I also
they founded it well.
I also liked even though he's not in it a ton, but I also did like John Hamm's sort of antagonistic relationship with Tom
That's good.
Cruise with him, and it was so good in the one part where it was like, he's really kind of dressing him down, but then he had essentially told him he's taking over and he's going to teach the class. And then that part where you hear Maverick over the intercom and he's going to do the test run and show how it can be done. And I just remember at that moment just getting like amped and excited. And as you see him doing the maneuvers and doing it, and I'm on the edge of my seat, and then he hits it and it hits the button and it hits the target. And I was just like, yeah, it was just like such a, but they were doing it in the movie too. It was like everyone was excited. And I remember being excited at the same time the characters were excited, because it was just like, he's proving why he is who he is. And it was just like, man, this is such a good movie, hitting the right beats at the right time and just making you really go through the range of emotions. And it was just so well done.
Yep.
It's a well done movie. I mean, from start to finish, it's done well. They took their time with it, and it shows. They definitely they did it right. They paid just enough fanfare for everybody who know and love the first, and it keeps it fresh for people that don't know the first film. Like, it's a shame to me to hear that maybe a younger generation is kind of crapping on the original, but they weren't alive in 1985 or 1986. Like, movies have come a long way. Action films have come a long way. Like, I'm sorry that it's not maybe speaking to you right now, but it spoke to a generation of people at a time in a place. And there's going to be films for those younger audiences that they'll have films that come out at certain times in their life that's going to speak to them and to their generation or their time or a certain moment in time. And then 30 years from there, people are going to be like, I don't understand this. You're going to be like, well, you weren't there. You don't know. Of course, it's not going to speak to you. You weren't of that moment. And that's what's frustrating to hear people kind of pooping on the original, because I'm like, you can't, because you weren't there. That would be like me going back and going, gone with the wind.
I mean, there's certain movies I think they're more of a product of their time than others. I mean, I think we're all able to watch movies from an older era and still appreciate them for what they are. And then there's movies like Top Gun that I still argue, even if it is tied to 1986, like I still think it's a good movie, but it is the kind of movie that feels much more of a movie for those of us back in 1986 than maybe other films.
Right. I mean, so I rewatched it over the weekend while you guys were hanging out, in Anaheim, doing the cool Anaheim things. So I rewatched it because it's been a little while since I've watched it. And yeah, there are a few moments in that film that maybe don't age spectacularly well, but nothing super cringy. There's other films that I've watched that have been far more recent that are super cringy. So no, like, is there a moment or two or a line or two you kind of go, that doesn't play anymore? But overall, it's still a solid film, I think, without me even getting like fangirly on it. Like, I'm like, it's still pretty solid for what it is. Like, is it going to win awards for script writing? Hell no. But like, it's a solid story from start to end, just like this one is.
Right.
Anyways, sorry. I'll get off my little TED Talk soapbox.
I mean, I was going to say, I loved it. I don't really have a lot more to add about it. Like, I don't know if you guys do, but like,
yeah. Well, I just want to say that I also did like the Miles Teller edition, and that was really sweet, and being able to see that reconciliation, because you go into it and you honestly think that the reason why there's going to be tension between the two is because of what happened to his dad, and within the course of the movie, it's not like that was the issue. It was the issue
Mhm.
where he pulled his papers and that he set his career back because he wanted to fly. And so I was happily and pleasantly surprised that it wasn't this tension about he thinks that he got his dad killed and, is not in his life. It was like, no, that wasn't the issue at all. And so it was like, that was nice. And then just seeing him at the
Mhm.
end when he's helping him with the plane and making the repairs on it or whatever, getting it all fixed up. That was nice seeing them together. And even that part that had me laughing when Tom Cruise's fighter jet goes down, and then Miles Teller Rooster helps him out, and then he runs across to catch up to him, and first thing he does is knock him on his ass, and instead of like anything else, he's like, "What are you thinking? I tried to save your life." He's like, "I saved your life," and he goes. He says, "Well, something." He's like, "Well, you told me not to think." So like, and he couldn't say anything. So he's like,
Right.
so
The kid did exactly what I told him to do.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was just so nice. So with I do wonder though, with the amount of money this movie is making, will there be a Top Gun 3? I'm hoping not. I liked this movie so well that I kind of wanted to just be this thing, and that's like a good resting place for it. But when a movie makes a lot of money in Hollywood,
If it were any
Yeah.
other situation, I would say yes. I could see, hey, whatever it would be, there's going to be another one. But then I feel like there's the Tom Cruise of it all
mm,
and how much I think power he has in the situation.
right,
And I feel like, it's going to be Tom Cruise going, nope, like this worked. We're good. Like, I don't want to do another one. And we don't have a good story for another one. And it just
Yeah.
would be too forced. And I feel like that would be the reason we won't see, even though everything else points to, yeah, they're going to make
Totally.
another film, like you just
mm-hmm.
said, Bobby. It's making too much money. Any
Yeah.
other film, they would have already greenlit
Yeah,
another
Yeah.
one. I think that I would imagine that's going to be the reason we don't see that happen here, and I hope not. It was a nice long break after the original Top Gun. Luckily, they didn't rush out and make a Top Gun 2 like 5 years later. Or even 3 years later. And instead, it's been quite a while. And then we got this, which I think was kind of a gem given the circumstances, and hopefully no more.
No, I'm hoping that Tom Cruise will use his creative pull in the situation and go, guys, we rounded out Maverick's story. It's concluded. We're good. Like, there's no way we're going to be able to pull a decent enough script into another film. Like, I'm hoping that he puts down the Tom Cruise foot. And
We don't need to see the film of Tom, you're way too old. Like Maverick, you're way too old. You just can't fly planes anymore. And he's trying to use a cane to get to the
he's got an
jet,
injury that just keeps flaring up throughout the
won't give up.
film, and you're just like, oh god, this is
like
painful.
no, nobody wants to see that.
Nobody wants to see that. He went out on top. And he even said that this was the last thing he was going to do. His career was done after this literal flight situation. So, like, it's done. He's done. His career's done. He's moving on. Like, it's done.
Yeah.
He's going to live a happy little life with beautiful Jennifer Connelly and her daughter. And they're going to be super happy serving up beers and riding out on her little, like, boat, in San Diego. It sounds magical.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean, that's the perfect retirement. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and to cap it all off, it's like Paramount is having a pretty good year so far.
Yeah.
For between Sonic and this, and I think they had one other movie that came out that did pretty well for them. Maybe The Bad Guys. I can't remember what their other movie was, but I think there was another one that came out that did pretty decent. But they're doing all right, and I know that they must be happy that any of the execs that were pushing to try and have Top Gun come out on Paramount Plus are happy that never went through. But it didn't look like it was going to ever go through because Tom was not going to let that happen, and it's good for us too, because it would have been a shame to have watched that movie on TV first. And though I feel like even if we had done that it would have called for not a re-release, but a release in
Mhm.
theaters, even though it had been out on Paramount Plus, and I'm sure people would have gone to go see it just because they had watched it on Paramount Plus. Like, no, I got to see that in a theater. But I'm glad it came out the way it did. I'm glad he waited it, and that we got to experience it like we did.
It's a
Definitely.
good thing that Tom, I mean, he was the real person that was like, this is going to go in theaters. This is going to go in theaters. And he was the one that was okay with them. He was like, we're pushing it back. We're pushing it. He was the one that was saying we should push it back until he knew audiences could come back from COVID in a way. And he knows. He's like, it's a theater film. He's like, that's just how it is, guy. Like he, you know, I gotta give it to him. The man knows his stuff. He's been in the business long enough. He knows how it goes, and he's not wrong. Yeah, you know. More power to you, Tom.
Yep, agreed. With that, we are going to wrap things up. As always, we'd love to hear back from all of you watching. Let us know what you thought of Top Gun Maverick. You can leave any of your comments or questions down below here on YouTube. Make sure to also like and subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we post any other videos in the future. You can also reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at Flickr_effect. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Michelle Hiller.
Thanks.